As the global success of K-pop shows, Korea has always been a country deeply in love with music. And there's one place almost every musician in Korea has visited at least once, a kind of holy ground. So for our very first project, we're starting right here at the heart of Korea's music scene, Nakwon Music Center. We are in Jongno Samga, one of the most dynamic neighborhoods in Seoul. It's a kind of place where decades-old local restaurants sit right next to trendy cafes, and somehow it all works. Right in the middle of all that energy stands a truly strange building. A 4-lane road cuts right through the ground floor while shops, theaters, and apartments stack up above it. This is Nakwon Music Center, the largest musical instrument center in Korea. The name Nakwon literally means paradise. But if you're seeing this place for the first time as a traveler, you might be thinking, paradise? Really? To understand how Nakwon ended up looking like this, we have to go back about 50 years. Before this building existed, this site was home to the old Nakwon market. It was especially famous for its dog, or Korean rice cakes. In Korea, rice cakes are shared on special occasions, celebrations, milestones, big family events. Even former presidents were said to order rice cakes from here. And that history is still hanging on. Walk around the nearby alleys, you'll still spot rice cake shops carrying the Nakwon name. In the late 1960s, the government planned a major new road as part of Seoul's modernization. But there was one problem. They didn't want to push out the market vendors. So, they came up with a pretty wild idea. What if the building simply floated over the road? Construction began in 1967. It became one of the Korea's earliest modern mixed-use complexes. A market in the basement, shops on the lower floors, a cinema on the fourth floor, and upscale apartments above. At the time, it was a highly desirable address, the kind of place celebrities and high-ranking officials wanted to live in. By the 1980s and 90s, Nakwon had become the center of Korea's music industry. Before the internet, this was where musicians came to meet, network, and find gigs. It was a golden era packed with talent, opportunity, and energy. Then came the 1997 financial crisis. Live music venues began shutting down, and Nakwon nearly disappeared with them. But somehow, Nakwon stubbornly remained at the center of Korean music culture. More than half a century has passed since then. The city around it has transformed again and again. But Nakwon itself, in many ways, it feels like time paused somewhere around the 1980s. So what does Nakwon look like to us today? Let's take a look. First, let's head down to Nakwon Market. This is where the whole story began. Back in the day, this place was full of life. So famous that even presidents came here for rice cakes. But now, that old energy is much harder to find. The moment you step downstairs, it honestly feels like you slip back into the 1960s. Raw concrete floors, exposed pipes, dim lighting, even in the middle of the day. For some people, that might feel nostalgic, but for a first-time visitor, it feels more like stumbling into a hidden underground set from an old movie. Atmospheric? Yes. Easy to enter? Not exactly. Now let's head back outside and look at the building from the street. See those old restaurants to right against it? They create this really lively old school Seoul atmosphere. But when you look at the architecture itself, let's just say there's a room for improvement. For a place that holds the largest musical instrument center in Korea, Nakwon's exterior is surprisingly quiet. From the outside, it mostly reads as one giant gray block. And the wild part is, it looks almost the same as it did decades ago. On the side facing Topgol Park and the subway, you can at least spot movie posters for the cinema upstairs. So, there's a tiny clue that something is happening inside. But it doesn't really tell you anything about the instruments, which are the real soul of Nakwon. And the side facing Insadong, where so many tourists pass by, is even quieter. It's basically a huge blank gray wall. There's almost nothing to suggest that an entire world of music is hiding behind it. You could walk right past and never know. And getting in? That's its own little adventure. Because the building sits over the road, the ground floor feels dark even at noon. The stairs are narrow and the signs feel more like emergency exits than actual entrances. So people hesitate. Honestly, finding your way up to this so-called paradise feels a bit like solving a maze. But once you make it inside, wow, we've just stepped onto the second floor and suddenly it's instrument paradise. Brass, guitars, keyboards, pro audio gear. If it makes a sound, chances are it's here. One of the most interesting things is how the shops spill right out into the hallways. If you look down, you'll see lines marked on the floor almost like parking spaces. That's how each shop claims its territory. And when you're surrounded by this endless sea of instruments, it really feels like stepping into another world. But many windows have been covered to make room for displays. You lose your sense of direction immediately. It's a complete maze in here. One minute you're looking at guitars, the next minute you're wondering, wait, where am I? And then all of a sudden, everything changes. After all the noise and density, you end up in a space that feels almost weirdly empty. The packed shops disappear, and suddenly it feels like an old school hallway after everyone has gone home. No people, no music, just dusty boxes, and that slightly abandoned feeling in the air. So, I headed back up to the rooftop. You pass the Hollywood cinema with its wonderfully old school, slightly 80s energy, and then suddenly the whole place opens up into this wide grassy square. After the maze below, the sky feels huge. It almost feels like finding a little oasis in the middle of the city. And yet, for a place this open, this breezy, this nice, there is barely anyone here. It feels a bit like a stage waiting for something to begin. Alright, let's see if we can give Nak원 Music Center a real refresh. The mission is simple. A new look for the elevations, a better experience at the entrance stairs, and a fresh take on those interior spaces that seem to twist and unfold in every direction. Now, it is time to meet the people who know this place best. The shop owners have the stories, the frustrations, and the ideas, and those stories will guide us toward the Nak원 they have been wanting to see. Mission 1. Let's start with the elevation. To us, Nak원 was just a giant gray block, but I wondered what the owners thought. Between 인사동, 종로, and 안국, which side do they consider the true face of the building? Interestingly, every answer was different.
종로 2가 좀
인사동 한국에서 들어오는 쪽
It just shows how diverse their perspectives are. Now, let's use these clues to transform each elevation one by one. First, let's head to the 종로 side, the busiest part. What do the shop owners think of it now?
진짜 옛날 같고 그 칠한 것도 계속 떨어지고 너무 불안한 거가 떨어져서 낙하물 때문에 사고 위험이 있어가지고 사실은 그것도 걱정은 돼요. 약간 그 가벼운 거로 해서 좀 깨끗하게 좀 했으면 좋겠어요, 소재를.
The shop owners were really worried about things falling off the walls. So, I stripped everything off. Now it's a clean wall where only the signs stand out. No more worrying about safety. But looking at it now, the entrance is still hard to find. Why don't we solve that initial confusion we felt through the design itself? Now, it's clear where to go in. Let's hear more from the shop owners.
그리고 거기에다가 그런 거를 설치하면서 이제 그 낙원상가에 대한 그런 홍보할 수 있는 그런 것들을 이렇게 그림을 한다던가 뭐 그런 것도 괜찮을 것 같습니다. 그러면 손님들이 딱 봐서 아 저기 낙원상가야.
Exactly. It needs to scream, this is a place for music. But since they were worried about the painting peeling off, I thought of a different way. Beam projection. Wouldn't it be amazing if people grabbing a drink at the street stalls could enjoy a music performance projected right onto the wall? Let's move to the 인사동 side. There's less traffic here, and it's where the main stairs are. How is this space usually used?
스타쇼 같은 걸 하면서 그때 그걸 했거든요. 밖에서 그 수많은 분들이 뭐 나이대 상관없이 모여서 그 통기타를 치는 연주를 한다든지.
People who are so serious about music that they'll start a show anywhere there's a stage. Then let's turn this spot into a proper stage. Bigger stage, bolder entrance. Now we're talking. But looking at it now, the wall still feels a bit unfinished. Shall we borrow an idea from shop owners?
건물 자체 뭐 벽화도 괜찮겠지만 뭐 그런 좀 여러 사람들이 이제 그냥 봐도 단순히 그냥 악기점이라 생각하기보다는 와서 그냥 즐기고 구경할 수 있는 공간으로.
저희가 이게 바깥에다가 조명을 특별하게 여기서 저희 자체적으로 이제 하겠다 그런 생각을 했는데
What used to fade into the background now stands out with real character. A busy entrance, a stair, and even a stage, all with a little more Nak원 spirit. Mission 2. The entrance stairs is the building's most defining feature. Yet, it has so little presence you'd hardly know it's an entrance. I wonder what the shop owners think about these stairs. Let's start with the most direct question. How does this stair feel to you?
이쪽 계단이 보시면 이제 옛날에 진 건물이잖아요. 계단이 저희도 항상 이게 좀 위험하고.
His answer is clear. It's too steep, too rigid, it looks dangerous. Exactly, Nakwon needs a bit of wit. A safe and cheerful set of stairs like this. There's another set of stairs we wanted to change. This time, let's incorporate the shop owner's lifelong wish into the design. Madam, what's your lifelong wish?
앞으로 이제 미래에 내가 이제 딱 한 가지가 있거든요. 나는 여행을 되게 좋아하는데 여행을 많이 못 다녔어요. 그래서 세계 여행을 가고 싶습니다.
So, what if we put travel into the commute? A stair you use every day, but one that feels like living for somewhere else. It does not fully make sense, but somehow it feels right. Mission 3. What really goes on inside this mall, packed with thousands of instruments? To redesign this complex interior, let's start uncovering the stories woven into these walls. Before we dive into the interior makeover, I was curious to know what Nakwon looked like in the shop owner's memories.
맨 처음에 왔을 때는 이 나무 프레임, 이게 문 프레임이 다 나무였어요. 자그마한 가게들이 진짜 조밀조밀하게 많았거든요.
참 진짜 옛날 얘기인데 네모나게 조그만 데다가 안에서 흡연까지 하는 그런 장면을 생각해 보세요. 이게 말이 안 되는 그런 장면들이 있었습니다. 완전히 골방 같은 그런 느낌이었어요. 그 와중에 장사는 잘 됐던 것 같아요.
Even narrower shops and smoking indoors, it's definitely much better now than it was back then. But is there anything else that could be improved?
간판이 일단은 좀 통일적이지가 않아서 맞춰서 통일되게 좀 이름 이쁘게 바꾸자 이렇게 하면 좀 좋을 것 같고, 복도 매장이 좀 더 여백의 미를 좀 제가 가지고 손님들이 아이템을 봤을 때 좀 더 여유롭게 보는 공간이 생기면 좋지 않을까.
Keeping in mind the beauty of empty space the shop owner mentioned, I've completely cleaned up the clutter ceiling and display layout. Another thing we felt missing inside was the lack of windows. One of the shop owners pointed this out as well.
바깥에 비 오는 거나 눈 오는 거 보고 싶은데 전혀 여기서 볼 수가 없어요. 누가 이제 손님들이 우산을 들고 온다든지 얘기를 해줘야지 나가볼 수 있기 때문에 그게 좀 아쉽습니다.
It's hard to add real windows with so many instruments on display, but I couldn't ignore the wish to see the weather. So, I designed a hallway that reflects the outside conditions, acting as a landmark to help people find their way in this maze. Some wanted to see forests.
창문이 있다면 뭔가 나무와 숲에 있는 곳에 악기를 둬도 뭔가 이렇게 같이 어울리잖아요.
That's a bit tough for a hallway. But that's exactly why we have the rooftop. Now, this feels less like a leftover roof and more like a rooftop people might really use. Do you remember those empty spaces we found earlier? I was so curious about what they were used for, and I found the answer in one of the shop owner's interviews.
공실이 있어요. 공실에 이제 그날만 하루 이틀 정도 전국의 베이스 시즌들 일반인들을 모여서 제 축제를 열고 있어요.
Aha, So, even though it's usually empty, it's a space used for occasional events. But wait, what is this base day the shop owner just mentioned?
편하게 명품 같은 거 시원하게 하고 경품도 많이 나눠주고 잼 콘테스트 이런 거 하고 있고요. 이 베이스 기타 치시는 분들의 문화를 좀 더 제가 죽기 전에 좀 더 멋지게 만들어 드리고 싶어요. 그리고 그 역사가 내려갈 수 있게끔 제가 그 틀을 제가 만들고 죽고 싶습니다.
For this wonderful wish to be carried on strongly in the future, wouldn't it be great to turn it into a dedicated space that's always ready to host a show, make it much brighter, and fully equipped with sound gear to capture the heavy resonance of the bass at any time. So, we followed 6 spaces in 낙원, 2 elevations, 2 stairs, and 4 shared spaces. The old and uneasy elevations became lighter, clear faces for 낙원. The stairs people climbed every day became more than passages. They became paths shaped by discomfort and wishes. The shared spaces were not simply cleaned up. They became places where memories could return and care could stay for a while. But these 6 spaces were only the beginning. Through the interviews, we transformed many more stories, small wishes, old memories, personal dreams, and quiet discomforts that have been hiding inside 낙원. So now, let's look at 낙원 once more, not as an old building, but as a place filled with voices. We walked around 낙원, listened to the people inside it, and revised spaces through their words. So next, where will we walk, what stories will we hear, and what will we build again?